They told you it couldn't be done. They said you'd reached your ceiling. They looked you in the eyes and swore you'd gone as far as someone like you could go. And now here you stand at the crossroads. Will you accept their verdict, or will you become the bone crusher? There's a savage truth few men ever discover, a truth that changes everything once you grasp it. Every limit placed upon you is nothing but a bone waiting to be crushed beneath your feet. Every boundary, every ceiling, every impossible is just another skeleton to add to your collection. From your first breath, they've been setting the cage around you. Parents with good intentions but limited vision. Teachers who trained you to fit rather than to shatter. Friends who need you to stay small so they feel adequate. Bosses who profit from your containment. A society that fears those who refuse to be tamed. These limits aren't random, they're deliberate. The world runs smoother when men accept their assigned place. When they shuffle obediently between the lines drawn for them. When they mistake their cage for the entire universe. But something in you has always known better. That restlessness when you lie awake at night. That fury building in your chest when you see another man claim what should be yours. That voice whispering you were meant for more. These aren't delusions. They're your deepest self recognizing the lie. Look at history's titans. The men whose names echo through centuries. The builders of empires. The conquerors of impossibility. The shapers of humanity's course. What separated them wasn't talent alone. It wasn't luck or birthright or perfect timing. It was their absolute refusal to accept the boundaries set before them. Alexander wept when he thought there were no more worlds to conquer. Not because he'd achieved everything, but because he feared he'd reached a limit. Then he crushed that fear and marched onward. Every great man throughout time shares this trait. They recognize limits as illusions to be destroyed, not realities to be accepted. Your ancestors knew this truth in their bones. Ancient warriors didn't ask permission to exceed expectations. They seized glory with bloodied hands. They understood that nature respects power, not politeness. That the universe rewards those who take, rather than those who wait to be given. This primal wisdom flows in your veins, dormant but never dead. The most dangerous chains are the ones you've come to love. Comfort, routine, safety, predictability. These silken restraints feel pleasant against the skin while they slowly strangle your greatness. They offer the warm bath of mediocrity over the cold shower of excellence. And many men choose to soak in that warmth until death comes to find them, having never truly tested their limits. But you're not most men. You felt the itch of potential crawling beneath your skin, the hunger that regular meals can't satisfy, the thirst that ordinary water can never quench. You know there's something more because you can sense it calling to you from beyond the boundaries they've convinced you are solid walls. Remember this, limits aren't discovered, they're created. And what man creates, man can destroy. Every ceiling has cracks if you hit it hard enough. Every barrier has weak points if you study it long enough. Every seemingly immovable object will yield to the truly unstoppable force. The bone crusher mentality begins with a simple question. Who decided this was my limit? Who drew this line and declared I couldn't cross it? Who measured my capacity and proclaimed it insufficient for greater things? Was it someone who has achieved more than you aspire to? Or was it someone safely contained within their own comfortable boundaries? The answer reveals everything. Lions don't accept limits set by sheep. Eagles don't acknowledge ceilings described by chickens. And you shouldn't bow to boundaries established by those who fear what you might become if fully unleashed. Think about the 4-minute mile. For years, experts swore it was physically impossible for the human body to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They had studies, they had evidence, they had consensus. They were utterly convinced this limit was carved in stone by nature itself. Then Roger Bannister crushed that bone beneath his feet in the year 1954. And within just 1 year of him smashing this unbreakable limit, 16 other runners also broke it. The limit existed only because everyone believed it did. Once shattered by one man's refusal to accept it, it lost all power. How many 4-minute miles exist in your life right now? How many impossible achievements are simply waiting for you to stop respecting the artificial boundaries placed around them? The path of the bone crusher isn't elegant. It's not designed for those who need constant comfort or regular praise. It's raw, brutal, lonely. It demands calluses on your hands and scars on your soul. It requires you to find pleasure in pain, wisdom in struggle, and strength in resistance. Where others seek to avoid pressure, you must learn to crave it, knowing that diamonds don't form without crushing force. Society worships specialists who excel within defined areas. The bone crusher becomes a master of one meta skill that transcends all others, breaking through limits in any domain he chooses. While others perfect playing within the rules, you perfect changing the game entirely. This is how ordinary men transform into legends. Not by doing what's expected exceptionally well, but by doing what was deemed impossible with casual confidence. There will be voices when you begin this journey. Loud, insistent voices. They'll call you crazy, unrealistic, arrogant, delusional. They'll recite statistics about failure. They'll remind you of your previous shortcomings. They'll point to others who tried and fell. Listen carefully to these voices, not for their message, but for what they reveal about the speakers. Fear makes men into prophets of limitation. When someone tells you what you cannot achieve, they're telling you what they cannot imagine. Their ceiling is showing. The most important battleground isn't external. The first and fiercest resistance comes from within. Your own mind has been programmed with acceptable limits. Your own beliefs have absorbed the boundaries set by others. Before you can crush the bones of external limitation, you must pulverize the internal framework of self-doubt that holds them in place. This internal war never fully ends. Each new level brings new mental barriers to overcome. The voice inside that once said, "You can't earn 6 figures," transforms to whisper, "You can't earn 7." The doubt that said, "You can't attract that quality of partner," evolves to mutter, "You can't keep them." The fear that claimed, "You can't build that business," shifts to insist, "You can't scale it." Same enemy, different uniform. Recognize it, crush it, advance. Physical training offers the perfect template for breaking limits in all areas. When the iron gets heavy and your muscles scream and your lungs burn and everything in you begs to stop, you face a choice. Honor the limit or crush it beneath your will. Each rep beyond what feels possible teaches your entire being that limits are suggestions, not commands. the lesson transfers to everything you do. The bone crusher knows something others don't. Pain is information, not instruction. When you push against established boundaries, discomfort rushes in. Most interpret this as a command to retreat. The wise understand it's merely data indicating proximity to a breakthrough. The burning sensation as you approach your limit isn't a warning to stop, but a signal that transformation is imminent. Look around at the men who accept their limitations. Really look at them. See the resignation in their eyes, the practiced contentment masking quiet desperation, the elaborate justifications for why they never attempted more, the subtle flinch when conversation turns to dreams or ambitions. Then decide if that's the company you wish to keep or the fate you're willing to accept. When you begin breaking limits, an interesting thing happens. People who once ignored you suddenly have strong opinions about your path. Those who never offered help now eagerly provide warnings. Those who showed no interest in your progress now closely monitor your failures. This attention isn't coincidence. It's the immune response of a system that requires your compliance. When one man proves limits are breakable, others might get dangerous ideas. Some will say this mindset is about proving something to others. They're wrong. The bone crusher doesn't break limits for applause or recognition. He does it because inside every artificial boundary lies freedom that belongs to him, resources that should serve his purpose, experiences that form his birthright. He isn't taking what belongs to others. He's reclaiming what was always rightfully his. There's a cost to this path. Let's acknowledge it plainly. You'll lose people who cannot comprehend your refusal to accept conventional limitations. You'll sacrifice moments of ease that others enjoy without question. You'll endure failures that those who never test boundaries never taste. You'll face ridicule until results silence the critics. But ask yourself, compared to the cost of a life contained within false limits, are these prices really so high? The bone crusher develops a unique relationship with obstacles. Where others see blocks, he sees stepping stones. Where they see stop signs, he sees starting lines. Where they see warnings, he sees invitations. This perspective shift doesn't happen overnight. It's forged through repeatedly pushing against resistance until your default response to "you can't" becomes "watch me." History offers an important lesson about limitation breakers. They're mocked, then resisted, then imitated. First they tell you you're crazy. Then they tell you you're dangerous. Then they ask you how you did it. This progression is so reliable you can use it to measure your progress. When criticism transforms into curiosity, you know the bones of your previous limits have been thoroughly crushed. The moment of breaking through feels unlike anything else in human experience. There's the strain of pushing against seemingly immovable resistance. The doubt as your strength seems insufficient. The temptation to accept that perhaps this limit is real after all. Then suddenly, like ice giving way beneath focused pressure, the breakthrough comes. The impossible becomes history. And in that sacred moment, you understand with perfect clarity that you've been capable of so much more all along. This clarity changes you permanently. Once you've proven to yourself that one unbreakable limit was merely an illusion, you begin to question all others. The man who breaks through his assumed income ceiling suddenly wonders what other financial barriers might fall. The man who pushes past his physical limitations begins to question his social ones. The man who exceeds his creative constraints starts examining his spiritual boundaries. Breaking one limit creates a chain reaction that can dismantle entire systems of containment. There's a secret society of bone crushers throughout history and across the world today. They recognize each other not by handshakes or code words, but by the distinctive look in their eyes. That blend of intensity and calm that comes from knowing limits are man-made and therefore man-breakable. When you join their ranks, you'll start noticing them everywhere. Not talking about what they'll do someday, but quietly shattering boundaries while others discuss why such things can't be done. Each limit you break rewards you twice. First, with the direct benefits beyond the boundary. Second, and more valuable by far, with the expanded identity of someone who destroys limitations rather than accepting them. This compound effect explains why bone crushers often accelerate over time. Breaking your first major limit might take years of struggle. Breaking your 100th might happen before breakfast. The ultimate power move in this game has nothing to do with external achievements. It comes when you realize you can crush the most fundamental limit of all. Other people's right to set your boundaries in the first place. When you revoke their permission to draw lines around your potential. When you cancel their authority to declare what's possible for you. This isn't arrogance. It's the rightful reclamation of your sovereignty. Let's be brutally honest. Most men will never break free of their artificial constraints. They'll exist within predetermined parameters, following acceptable paths to predictable destinations. They'll reach the end of their time wondering why that vague dissatisfaction never quite went away. Why that sense of unutilized potential haunted them to the final breath. They'll die with limitless treasures left unclaimed just beyond the walls they chose to respect. Don't be most men. Be the bone crusher, the limit breaker, the boundary destroyer, the man who future generations study to understand what happens when human potential refuses containment. The walking evidence that every impossible just hasn't met the right opponent yet. Starting now, treat every "you can't" as a personal challenge. Every "that's impossible" as an invitation to make history. Every established limit as a bone beneath your boot, waiting for the satisfying crunch of liberation. They set the cage, you break it. They draw the line, you cross it. They build the wall, you tear it down. They predict your ceiling, you make it your floor. This is the way of the bone crusher. The path of the man who refuses limitation. The code of those who understand that the only true boundaries are the ones we choose to honor. Now rise, find your next limit, and crush it into dust.